the day that your father dies, it's then that you realise that he's the only person on earth that wants you to be better than him. Realised he went from I can't do it, to now all of a sudden, because he's followed suit of where someone else has been, he's gone, wow, I actually can do it. So it's like when you can look at the path somebody else has followed, that in itself can unlock your own potential, because otherwise you sit there at the bottom going, I can't.
We only can control what we do today. Is there any other way, like to show that you love someone, that you would lay your life on the line for them? And you think about it, that's what we call a man, where you're like, I'll protect you, yeah? I'll do whatever it takes. I'll be the front line of defense. There's no other way, there's no bigger way to show, okay, I'll put my life on the line for you. If you're following a plan, then you're moving towards your potential. But if you're just doing things for the sake of doing them, then you're not actually getting the most out of it. It's not how much effort you put in, it's the results that you receive, which are actually going to make you get closer to your potential. And I think there is people out there who work their absolute ass off, but it's not in the right area.
Do you think it's wasted potential, or do you think it's just a slow, delayed progression into success? Like, who determines the pace? Welcome to the Men's Collective podcast. In this space, we keep the conversations real, inspiring, and challenging you to become the man you are destined to be. Your family needs you to be better. Your friends need you to be better. We need you to be better. We are your hosts, the Average Joes. Gentlemen, welcome back to the Men's Collective podcast, where we tackle the real conversations that push us to be stronger, sharper, and more intentional as men. Wayno here, and as always, I'm joined on the panel by three good mates and fellow Average Joes, three solid men who aren't afraid to break things down and challenge the status quo. Jamie, Mikie, Chrisso, welcome, fellas.
Hey, boys.
That's how we doing.
Well, look, today we're going to dive deep into something that every man wrestles with at some point, and that is the burden of potential. Think for a moment. Inside every man, there is something powerful. Call it talent, skill, vision, leadership, whatever you like. Basically, it's potential, and a lot of it, for a lot of us, goes untapped. Think of an underground well full of water. The well's deep, it's fresh, full of life, and capable of sustaining not just you, but the people around you, your family, your mates, your business, your future. But what happens when that well never gets drawn from? When that potential just sits there untapped? It doesn't just stay the same, it stagnates, and worst of all, it goes wasted. We've all felt it, that quiet frustration, that gnawing feeling that we're made for more. But what stops us from stepping into it? Is it fear of failure? Could it be fear of success? The comfort of staying the same? And maybe the bigger question, what happens if we never tap into what's inside of us? If we never push ourselves into the unknown and beyond what is easy? Well, look, this episode is going to hit hard because every man listening has a well of potential inside him. The only question is, are you drawing from it, or are you letting it go to waste? Make sure you like and subscribe on Spotify, Apple, and YouTube. And look, don't just listen, take action. If you're serious about growing, get along to an Average Joe's meetup this week and surround yourself with the men who refuse to stay stagnant. Hit up www.averagejoes.net.au to grab a shirt, check out the merch, and support this movement. Big, massive shout out to our sponsors, One Life Property. If you believe in that do believe in the mission, and look, if you do believe in the mission also and you want to help out men and step into their full potential, reach out, partner with us and become sponsors. It'd be great. Alrighty, let's get into it. The burden of potential. I'll start with a yes or no for you fellas, and I'll also want you guys listening to ask yourself the same question. So I'll start with a yes or no, and then we'll come back as to your reasons why. So, Mikie, I'll start with you first, bud. Do you believe you're living up to your full potential?
Close to. Now, yeah.
Nice. Chrisso?
No.
Jamie?
Yeah, no, I don't think so.
Yeah, no. Look, kind of in the middle.
Yeah, nah.
Yeah, no. The
no.
Aussie, nah.
No,
Yeah.
I don't think I'm living up to my full potential. Yeah.
Yeah. Look, if I'm honest with myself, I don't believe I am. All right, let's go back to why do we think the way, Mikie?
Oh, now it's peer pressure. I want to change my answer.
Yeah. Go back to the easy one.
It's in my life the last couple of years, starting the business and everything. That's been a massive change for me, and I feel like where I was now to where I am today. Like it's come a long way. I know there's always more to go, and you're always improving, but I feel like it's going good. Things are looking up.
Are you just confusing that with just enjoying where you're at in life at the moment, or?
Oh, I'm not saying I'm enjoying it. Look at my eyes, man. No, just the returns I'm seeing for what I'm doing. I'm in a good spot right now. So, and I know it's never there forever. There's ups and downs, but as a whole, I recognise that I've improved a fair chunk in the last couple of years. I always look at it and go, you've got to be happy to some extent with where you are, what you've done. You've got to have a bit of joy about where you are. Never lose that hunger to go forward, but you've also got to kind of respect and appreciate what you have achieved. So, yeah, I sit from a slightly different situation or position.
Chrisso, you answered no as well, buddy. Why don't you think you're living up to your full potential?
I think there's always potential there to unlock, and I think it'll always be that way from the time you're born until the time you die. There's always something else that you could be doing that you could be good at. I guess doing this podcast is a perfect example for me. It's something that I never thought that I would ever do, and it's not something that I felt comfortable doing. I had to step out of my comfort zone and really focus on something that it wasn't really something I would normally do. So yeah, look, I guess you've got to tap into something that it is going to get you out of that comfort zone and unlock the potential that is there. But I'm not going to say that this is something that I'm potentially good at. I don't claim to be good at speaking in public and having to put my my heart on the line here every time I come and sit down with you guys and talk about these hard-hitting subjects. It is difficult for me, but it gets me out of my comfort zone, and it's something that I'm growing and learning and something that I'm starting to enjoy a little bit.
A little bit,
Just a little.
But it is tough, and it's challenging me, and that's got to be a good thing.
I think sometimes before I jump onto you, Jamie, as to your reason why, I'll say something on what Chris just said. I think a lot of the times when it comes to understanding or seeing parts of our potential, because I'll say two things is to what you've just said. But one, obviously, a lot of our family and friends listen to this podcast, and a lot of other just people that we don't know. But Lisa has said to me a number of times, she's like, I like it when Chris is on there. Like, Chris actually says some really good things. Not that she says, that none of us do, but mentions, well, okay, she does. No, just
Yeah, the rest of them are chimps.
Who are the robots you got next to you? But she goes, oh, no, I actually like it when Chris is on there. Like, he actually says some really good things. And I think sometimes when we hear feedback on things that we've stepped out of, what you just called a comfort zone, I think sometimes when we hear the feedback on things, we then go, oh, okay, well, maybe my contribution or maybe my input or maybe what I am doing does carry some kind of value. So in your case, it definitely does. But also what's interesting is because I know this is hard for you. This is not part of your personality to do things like this. And even just yesterday when I was messaging Chrisso about today, I said, mate, this is the time, this is the topic. It's like, oh, look, I don't really know if I can contribute to that topic. And then I threw it back at him. We're going, well, that's the purpose in this topic exactly, is that there's untapped potential that you don't realise because what you do contribute does add value. And then so I wonder if sometimes when that gets stripped away or when somebody else reveals it to us, or it might take a remark from somebody else to then go, oh, maybe what I am doing is making some kind of an impact. Maybe what I am doing or saying, maybe that's what we sometimes need to hear as men to then push us into more untapped potential, because we don't know the limits of potential that we have. We don't know it until we even begin to start the journey and go, wow, I didn't even realise this. So, Jamie, to you, buddy, why? You said no as well?
I don't know whether it's an ego thing or whatever, but I have a high opinion of what I can do and what I can achieve. And I know that I'm not anywhere close to what the potential could be. Now, that wasn't always. When I was younger, I used to, think I was stupid, and I used to, was happy to get told what to do and all that sort of stuff. But over a period of time, you started getting goals and you started, achieving other things. And then, people say that ego is a bad thing, but without having a sense of ego or having, I guess it's probably not the right word, self-confidence or that self-belief, you won't take on the next challenge sort of thing. So I think over time, it's actually not a bad thing for people to build that self-confidence, self-belief and ego to a stage where they start to believe that they can have more. And I think when I look back, I go, I had so much potential that whole time, but I didn't believe it. And now where I'm at the stage where I'm going, I've got so much potential, but I'm not closing on that potential. Do you know what I mean? There's so much.
That's really good.
Yeah, there's so much things we want to do. I like, have programs to help guys and grow the podcast and do all these things that we're passionate about. But there's other parts in our life that are getting in the way that are stopping that sort of thing, which can be a bit frustrating too. And I think that's the same with all the guys' lives out there. Where we were only talking yesterday, where we've got to sort of segment our time to actually work on different things, because I think sometimes if we're trying to do everything all the time, that juggling means that we're not actually getting the results that we want to. So that's why I feel like I'm not reaching my full potential, because I haven't sort of worked out that jigsaw puzzle to get the right pieces in the right places yet. So, yeah. Now, improvement, 100%. Like, I can definitely agree with Mikie where, I think we're all improving, and we've seen massive jumps in things that we're doing, especially since starting the podcast and sort of working together and that supporting each other. But, I don't think that I'm anywhere near my potential yet.
So when it comes to potential, right, I think sometimes you're governed by, and I'm looking at this specifically from a man's point of view, and I touched on this just briefly before, but I think because we focus our lives, especially when we have families, we focus our lives around being that protector and that provider, the supporter, the one that goes out and takes the hard knocks, the one that puts ourselves last. And we've talked about this before in other podcasts about, learning to give ourselves permission to put ourselves first. But the tendency in the human nature we have within men is that we don't. We put everybody first, especially in the family environment. And I'm not saying men die miserable by any means, but men are very simple creatures. So when you look at when men do get to a certain age, let's just pick a figure and call it 90. Men get to 90 and they're looking back and they're reminiscing about their life. And the general consensus would be that they've enjoyed, loved the family, really, really proud. But I wonder if deep down you ask that man, but did you reach your potential? I wonder how many men would go, no, I really did. Or do you think men have just become content in just being okay with as long as everybody else does? Because there's that quote, I've been hearing it quite a lot on social media at the moment. I think it's Denzel Washington that says, on the day that your father dies, it's then that you realise that he's the only person on earth that wants you to be better than him. And I can't get that through my kids' heads enough, because it's the truth. Like I'm so driven to do so many things, driven with the business, driven with investing, driven with relationships that I make, driven with what I want to do here with Average Joes. And I know that I'm so driven, but I'm driven because of, not that I lacked anything growing up, but I'm driven because the world is so much bigger than what I thought the world was. So now I'm going, wow, I don't realise this is so big. But because I'm so driven, I'm then turning around to my kids going, if you only knew. And sometimes I feel like I'm rushing them, and Lisa quite often tries to pull him back and goes, babe, he's only 17 or he's only 19 or, yeah, but if I only knew, because I'm so driven. And I wonder if, I'm not by any means saying this is the case, but I wonder if sometimes you tap into hidden potential you didn't realise you had, and that you might be not setting your kids up for failure, but you're setting your kids up for something that's so hard. I don't know if that makes sense, because I'm not saying I've made something or I am making something unreachable, but sometimes I so badly want my kids to do more and go further than what I did. Hence why all the things I'm learning now at my age, I'm trying to draw back to their age, because I was mid-30s before I even started to learn business and things like that. I was just giving it a crack and I knew nothing. But until mid-30s, and I started to really deep dive into it further, I'm now turning around to my kids that are young going, oh, if you only knew, if you just listened to me. And sometimes I feel like I'm rushing them. So the challenge, I think, is, are we discovering our own potential, but then pushing or trying to open somebody else's potential as well, especially with your kids?
Well, I think with that one, in a leadership role, you can't control people. You can only influence them. So, you know, because they're going to see what you're doing and they're going to say, I want to be like this person. You know, I had a great catch up with an old friend, which I hadn't seen in years, but he's probably one of my best friends. I've known him forever. I was the MC at his wedding and all that sort of stuff. And he said to me the other day, he goes, my dad is my hero, you know? And this is one of the dads who actually took me under the wing when I was young and all the rest of it. And that was, you know, he is one of the reasons why I went, this is the dad that I want to be like. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
So I think it's really important to actually, rather than pushing the expectations on the kids, is to actually show them the person that they want to be. Because I've always found that when you're trying to push something onto someone, and I'm the same, someone tries to tell me to do something, like I've got that instant reaction like, whoa, buddy, don't tell me what to do, you know.
Yep.
I don't see no ring on this finger. Like, you know, you don't own me. But the thing is that I've always found that much. So that's something I've always tried to do, is that you pass on the knowledge and you pass on the experience. But I think people have to understand why to apply rather than saying this is what you should be doing. So I think that, you know, that's kind of, and I think when those expectations, I think men feel that a lot, when those expectations are so high, they're like, I'm never going to reach that. So why am I even going to bother trying? Because even now you can fall into the gap of going, well, I'm not reaching my potential. So why would I even bother to try to reach that potential? Where we can't do anything that's happened we can't change anything that's happened in the past. The only thing that we could do is actually reach our potential for today. Yep. And then when tomorrow you wake up, you reach your potential on that day. And then the focus on the process and the outcome will take care of itself type thing.
You've actually raised a really good, excuse me, you've raised a really good question actually, is when you look at the difference between expectation and potential. Because you can have a conversation with somebody that really, really believes in you and you could feel they're just setting you in high expectation. Or are they looking deeper and going, no, I see the potential. And I wonder if not only we hear that from other people, but do we put that on ourselves? Do we set a higher expectation? Or is it there's something deep down that we go, hang on a minute, there's actually the potential to do it? Which then makes you realise, okay, have you all seen the movie The Founder?
Yeah.
About the starting of McDonald's,
No.
right? Oh, brilliant movie. I've seen it a few times. I remember years and years ago, I'd actually heard the story in how Ray Kroc ended up taking McDonald's into what we know as McDonald's nowadays. It was a book by John C. Maxwell called something Laws of Leadership? 21 Irrefutable Laws of Leadership. Leadership. One of the laws of leadership he had is the law of the lid. In other words, everybody's got a lid. Everybody's got a limit, or, you know, it's like the fleas in the jar. Like if you put a bunch of fleas in a jar and put a lid on it, the fleas will continue to jump up and bang their heads on the lid. But after a while, you take the lid off, and they'll literally still jump to the same height because the lid has formed their, not so much their potential, but they've just become accustomed to that's as far as I can go. It's as far as I can jump. I can't go any further when they obviously have the potential to do it, but the lid there has formed this barrier. But you look at the story of McDonald's, these two brothers, surname McDonald, started the burger shop at a drive-in, right? Started to focus more on providing the food other than the movie, and then realised that the way they systemised how fast they could punch out a burger. So you've got two brothers created this fast-paced system of producing fast food, right? But yet they limited it to just one. They tried to go and franchise it, but they couldn't do it. So they scaled it back. So you've got two brains, two experiences, two beliefs, but limited to just one restaurant. Ray Kroc steps in, sees the potential and goes, hey, if you did this, and they drew right back and they're, no, we tried. Ray Kroc steps in and grew it to what you now know as McDonald's in being amazing. So when you look at the story, you go, did those two men have the same potential, right, when you look at how McDonald's is today? Or was the concept behind McDonald's carry the potential? Or was it Ray Kroc's potential that stepped in and took it to what it is? Because at the end of the day, Macca's went from something so small to something so huge. It was obviously somebody's potential because someone stepped into it. So when you look at potential like that and you go, you had 2 men, couldn't do it. You replace it with 1 man and he surpasses it by a long shot. Take into account, then you go, well, he obviously had a different lead if you look at John Maxwell's law of the lid. But you look at potential and you think to yourself, if only those 2 guys knew the potential behind the idea, if only those 2 guys knew what it was, but it took 1 man's vision, 1 man's thing to step in and do it.
I think that's what sometimes that you need though. Like it's hard yourself to sort of find that where your potential is. It needs to come from an outside source. Like someone needs to say, hey mate, you're really good at this. Like you should really pursue that. And I don't think you can really find your full potential without that. Like your mates or your family start really like encouraging you to do something that they've noticed that they see some potential in what, you know, in you with that particular thing. How do you unlock it in your own head is the question. Like how do you know without someone else telling you that there is potential there? How do you figure that out?
Yep.
That's a good question, actually. I was actually thinking of you, mate, when I was looking at this one here, because I remember a couple of years ago. I know we've touched on it a couple of times in the podcast, so we won't stay there too long, I guess. But when you went through your breakup a couple of years back, I remember having a conversation. You were on the phone. I actually, so we were having coffee down at the cafe here at the end of the road, and you'd only been separated for maybe 3 months, I reckon. But you made a statement to me of, because you've always been, like, I've known you now for, I think, 13 years, and you've always been driven, right? And you've always been super fit. You've always been disciplined and committed to fitness and family and business, like you always have been, right? And I've always admired that about you. So from the outside looking in, I would have gone, mate, that he's doing it. He's living it. But you went through a breakup, and then we were having a chat, and you made this comment, and you said, there's so much more about me I've learned, good things, that seemed to have just gone untapped until I'd gone through this hard time, right? And I think sometimes I'm not encouraging anybody to go through a hard time or go through a breakup or go things like that, but it's funny on how much potential we have locked in us, or we know we spoke at the start, like that well of water. There's so much potential, so much deep down within us men that sometimes it takes, in your case it was a hardship, but it takes a hardship to unlock it or even discover it. So I actually like your question, and let's stay there for a bit. How do we, without going through the hardship, without going through those kind of experiences, how do we stop and go, wow, there's so much more within me that I didn't know? It's a good question. Let's stay there for a bit. Thoughts?
Well, I think you just said it. It's your experiences. So, and Chris touched on it before, it's getting to that stage where you're just outside of that comfort zone. Do you know what I mean? So it doesn't have to be a breakup. It could be going to a seminar and going, wow, what he said, that's just one piece of gold that you're like, wow, I've never thought about it that way. Or it might even be getting around someone who's slightly more successful than you and actually realizing, do you know what? They're not that special. Like, actually, he's a bit of a idiot. I can, you know what I mean? Like, you're like, well, if he can do it.
It's his podcast, bro. Stop it.
I can.
Sorry.
Don't say sorry. It's hilarious. If he can do it, I can do it too, type thing. Do you know what I mean? Or sometimes it is just pairing up with someone and going, okay, let's go do this together. Do you know? So because as you're talking about the thing with the founder, it was him working with those guys at the start. And the important thing is that Ray Kroc was like in his 40s or 50s. And if anyone outside looking in saw him at the stage before he did that, he was like a down and out salesman who had nothing going for him, you know? So there is so much potential locked in people that just haven't. So actually getting out and opening up your eyes to those other experiences is so important, you know?
I guess that makes you realize, and we should take on those little nuggets that people say, but also take on those little nuggets that you maybe just overhear, or those little things that you see other people do. because sometimes it's those little things that are the keys to unlock the potential. Yeah, that's a good thought. I remember I went rock climbing, not rock climbing. What's that? There's a climbing place down at the back of Kawana near the. Can't remember what it's like a rock wall, indoor rock climbing place. You know what I'm trying to say. Anyway,
Yep.
there's an indoor rock climbing place at Kawana there, but I took Caleb and the boys there maybe about a year ago now, and Caleb's like, "Oh, I want to go try the really really hard one," and I'm like, "Mate, you're an absolute beginner, but go for your life, mate. If you think you can do the expert one, mate, I'm not going to hold you back. You go for it." And you've got to start upside down. So you've got to put your 2 hands on this thing below you and put your feet up, and that's the starting point, right? And then you work your way up, and you can't touch the floor. And he's trying, and he's falling. He's trying, and he's falling. But they don't. They're very limited on how they tell you to start. Other than you've got to start here and here. But starting that way was fine. He didn't know what move to make after that, right? And I'm sitting there watching and going, "Come on, mate, you can do it. You can do it." And he'd fall in on the mat, fall in on the mat. And as I'm looking at the wall, everybody does that white chalk on their hands before they go to dry their hands out to grab. And I'm watching him start upside down, then he'd fall because he's like, "Oh, what do I do next?" I'm like, "Oh, mate, don't ask me. I bloody couldn't even do what you're doing right there. You're 2 steps ahead of me already." But as I'm looking at the wall, I've noticed where majority of the white marks are from the chalk. And I'm going, actually, if you follow, there's like 10 different colours, black, whites, reds, blues, different shaped patterns on the wall that you can choose from. But predominantly, 1 out of every single 5 or whatever have more chalk in them. And I'm watching it going, wait a minute. People that have been here before, if you follow those predominant white marks at the wall, it makes it to the top. So remember when I went up to him and said, "Oi," I said, "It's great that you're starting this way." I said, "But look at the wall. Look where majority of the chalk is. People have been here before and done it because you can follow the chalk all the way to the wall. Maybe try and do where someone else has been. Go where someone else has been and follow suit." And that was an absolute game changer for him. I can't remember if he made it to the top, but it totally changed his outlook. And I guess what we're trying to say, realised he went from I can't do it, to now all of a sudden, because he's followed suit of where someone else has been, he's gone, wow, I actually can do it. So it's like when you can look at the path somebody else has followed, that in itself can unlock your own potential, because otherwise you sit there at the bottom going, I can't. And then you stand back where we are now as men, and you look at marriages, you look at businesses, you look at all these different things, health, that we go, no, I can't. I can't have a marriage like that. I can't have a business like that. I can't be healthy like that. Because we do. We say this, we make up excuses all the time. But yet, if you did stop for a moment and you followed the white chalk marks of life where other men have gone, and then you go, well, wait a minute, maybe that's the key to unlocking my potential, is standing back for a moment and going, well, what did they do? What did that other guy do to get there? How did his marriage get to that point? How did his business get to that? So maybe it's standing back for a moment and looking at what other men have done. That is the key to unlocking really what you can do, or believing in yourself and what you can do to start that whole thing.
Or just as simple as just saying yes instead of saying no. There's opportunities that come to us all the time.
Yes,
Like
that's a good
people
point.
go, hey, let's go and do this, or let's go and do that. And you go, oh, nah, it's not something I normally do, or that, I don't really like doing that, or it sounds a bit hard. Just go, you know what? Yeah, I'm going to give that a crack. Because you never know. You go and do it, and you're like, I'm actually good at this.
That's a really good point.
And then that all of a sudden opens up a whole door of potential that you never knew you had, just because you said yes, just because you had to, gave it a go.
That's a really good point, mate.
Yeah.
Just say yes. Stop saying no.
Go back to what I was saying about that 90-year-old man, right? If you sit down and you question that 90-year-old bloke, is at the end of his life, and you say, mate, do you think you tapped into your potential? What do you think, other than, say, his focus of being family and, the go-tos, other than those things, what do you think men get to where they go, you know what, I never was able to tap into that potential because of, what do you think those men say? Everyone's looking at Mikey, so
Mate.
we're obviously waiting for Mikey's answer.
Yeah.
You have potential to answer this, mate.
Maybe I should just do
Just
it.
say yes to the
Just do
question,
it.
buddy.
No, I think we've got that. There is the option there to confuse potential and dreams. The guy at 90 goes, man, when I was 10 years old, I was going to be a whatever. I was going to be an astronaut, or I was going to be this. And the choices we've made have changed our potential. So when we talk to our kids and they're, you know, we see potential in them, their potential is endless because they haven't made a decision. They haven't stepped down a path yet. So for the guy that's 90 and he doesn't feel like he's met his full potential, there's so many reasons why that would be. And that would have been a sacrifice for his kids, sacrifice for his wife. It would have been the sacrifice for just self-preservation. The guy would have turned around and said, well, I was going to have a crack at this, but I had to pay the bills this week, so I didn't. I plugged away at this. I took that option. I took that chance. I took a chance on something and it didn't work, and it came back. And more often than not, he'll end up going, it's probably myself that nipped me at the end of it. My ability not to say yes and have another go. I didn't have the right guy around me that gave me that push.
I think it's a bit of a dangerous question, like way to think, you know, because for me, I'm thinking potential is like, did you live the perfect life, you know? And that's really hard where you're like, because we all make mistakes, but sometimes our mistakes can lead to you going to the next stage of your potential and getting better. And so it's really hard for people to go, did I reach my potential? Because for you to reach your potential, everything would have to be perfect. Yep. And that's not life, you know? And I think that if we're worried about losing things, then what happens when you do take that dip, that can actually hit you harder. Where, do you know what I mean? Where you're like, you're doing okay for a while, and then something challenging comes in. Your life starts to go worse than what it was before, and all you're worried about is what you lost, rather than what's going to be your next step about how to get better. You know, where if you just maximize those highs for as long as you can, and then when things start turning around, and you know that's life, it's ups and downs, isn't it? And you just minimize those lows, then eventually you're going to start to get, you know, it is going to be on the right trajectory. But when you set a goal, it's not like, I hit that, I hit that, I hit that. You hit this one, I miss this one. I hit this one, I miss this one. Do you know what I mean? But as long as you're progressing, it's. I think that's a better way to look at it rather than going, did I reach my potential in my whole life? Because I don't think anyone's going to really reach their potential in their whole life. Like everyone has gifts and all the rest of it, but really, if someone puts their mind to something, they probably could do what, if that's all they care about and that's all they're obsessed about it, they probably could get to that stage where, you know, they could be the successful athlete or do all that sort of stuff. But, you know.
Yep. Well, you're the product, aren't you? You're McDonald's. You're not going to reach any potential until someone sees it and gives you that push and sows into you a little bit. So,
which I guess raises another question of when it comes to potential. Who has the right to judge what the potential is, right? For example, like you look at the story of McDonald's where it took an outsider to look in and goes, guys, if you only knew what this could do. But they didn't believe it because they've tried and gone, no, it can't. But if you only knew. Compare that to men questioning themselves like we did at the start. Do you think you're living up to your own full potential? And you go, no, I don't. So I wonder when it comes down to who judges where that potential lies. Is it an outsider looking in? Or is it you determining yourself? Because sometimes it does take someone else to go, mate, if only you knew the potential you had. Like I do with my kids now. There's potential. Like I'm seeing my daughter do things that, and this is going to sound bad, but it doesn't. It's not bad. So hear me out. I didn't think she had in her what I'm seeing out of her now, and she's only 21. The career opportunities that are being thrown at her because of how good she is at what she's doing has made me step back and go, I actually didn't think that this is the path you would go down, but you are surpassing well done. So now the perception of potential I had on her has now been torn away, and I'm going, well, darling, if this is where you're at now and this is you just creeping along, I'm excited to see how big your potential is to go forward even more. Flip that around to my boys. I'm saying to my 19-year-old at the moment, but if you could only see the potential you had, but you're not tapping into it. Like if you only knew. I see it. I see you do certain things and go, mate, if you only knew. But I'm trying to get that poking rod out and like giving a bit of a zap going, mate, just can you get a little bit more motivated or a little bit more moving? Because we see it. Flick that around again and you look at men that are looking within inside themselves. I know within this movement right now, within Average Joes, I know that I'm not living up to its full potential. I'm not taking it to its full potential. I know there's so much more there. So the challenge I'm looking in myself going, I know I'm not living up to my full potential on this. So I wonder if there's a difference in motivation on where we go from towards each step when the motivation on that potential comes from either the outside or whether it comes from the inside. Do you think when people go, mate, there is more in you, there is so much more potential, do you think that drives men more compared to, wait a minute, I know I'm not living up to my own full potential? What do you think drives men more?
Oh, men definitely thrive on outside encouragement. That's a known fact, you know, whether it comes from the wife or the mates or whatever, the family. I know I definitely thrive on encouragement from other people.
Yep. I agree, mate.
Right. Now that you just worded it that way, I think you are absolutely bang on. Which well, I'm going to make a statement here that's probably going to sound very, I don't know, take it for what it is, but it's the truth. I wonder if the potential locked away inside every man is locked away because of the lack of verbal support, verbal encouragement, the verbal push that we get from our partners. So I wonder if the dying potential within men, you know, I'm a massive believer in men taking responsibility for themselves and owning it. But I'm going to ask a very tiptoe around this question. I wonder, though, if the potential that dies within so much men relies on the unlocking of the support we get from the people around us. 'Cause we've all just said, I know I perform so much better when I know that Lisa's genuinely saying, oh, wow, I actually didn't think, like, well done, compared to, oh, well done. Like, I hate patronism. Oh, well done. Hey, like, oh, please stop. That's just so.
Tied your own shoelaces.
Oh, well.
Pat yourself on the back.
You did so good at that intro today, mate.
No, but compared to when I genuinely impress Lisa and she comes back with that, I then go, okay, I think you've just unlocked so much more now of me that I can do. So I remember when I used to playing basketball as a teenager, if my dad came to watch, bro, I was pulling moves out that I didn't even know moves existed. I was creating moves on the court because he unlocked the potential by being impressed. The fact that an older man, being my dad, would sit on the sideline and was impressed by what I did, unlocked potential in me that I'm like, wow, I didn't realise I had 35 points in me this game. Because, you know, I would stick around, you know, whatever. So I wonder, you know, I wish if women were listening to this podcast, but for the women that do listen to this podcast, because we do have a female audience, but the potential locked away inside their man that is unlocked just by what they can say to their man.
Well, I think I say it all the time. I think men are the gender that loves the most, you know, where we genuinely, like, whether it's like you give so much because you want to show that love. Do you know what I mean? And what we want in return is that support, is that someone believing you, all the rest of it. So whether it's from your partner or whether it's from your family, like, what is there any other way, like, to show that you love someone that you would lay your life on the line for them? Do you know what I mean? And you think about it, that's what we call a man, where you're like, I'll protect you. Yeah, I'll do whatever it takes. I'll be the front line of defense. There's no other way there's no bigger way to show, okay, I'll put my life on the line for you. Do you know what I mean?
That's
So-
that's actually a Bible verse.
Yeah,
There's no greater love that a man would lay down his life for his friend.
absolutely.
There's no greater love.
But it's not only like, and you do it for your mates. Like you think about, that's why team sports are so important, because it's not about you winning the thing. It's about the boys winning the team. And it's not about, you're not angry that you made the mistake. You're angry because you let the boys down. Does that make sense? Like, you know, and that's our biggest fear, where with our kids, we let them down. So you think about also providing for your family. Like you're prepared to go out and work your ass off every single day to give your family a better life. Yeah? That's selfless. That's love. So I think it is so important to have people that actually, for you to know that you've got someone who's got your back and who believes in you and is gonna sort of like be behind you, like be in your corner. I think that's what every man wants.
There's no better feeling,
Correct. Yeah.
is there?
There isn't, I think.
Knowing
Absolutely.
that, you know, it's normally your wife or your partner, knowing that they're in your corner, they support you, you know, they got your back, they believe in you. That's definitely going to, you know, encourage me to unlock more potential.
All right. Look, I'm totally on line with you guys. There's no way, and I say this hand on heart as the truth, there's no way I could have gone as far as I have in so many areas of life if Lisa wasn't the one there going, babe, I support you, I believe in you 100%, I'm with you. That does it, right? Do you think, because I'll reveal a bit of where we're at the moment, but Lisa's actually trying to convince me to slow down a bit, right? Slow down with the vision, slow down, because she's finding it that I'm throwing so much at her now because I've unlocked areas of potential in my life where I'm going, wow, I'm seeing results here, I'm seeing results there. Now that I'm there, I'm going, wow, so where is the lid then? If we've come this far, where is our limit? Great, I'm going for it. So Lisa's now going, okay, can we just slow down a bit, because it's big, it's a little bit overwhelming. She's like, okay, just stop. Whereas I'm going, boom, boom, boom. So I wonder if, I'm not going to say, because we've just touched on that, I'm not saying women can, or our partners can slow us down, but I wonder if there's a place where, see, right now I'm questioning, I want to know where my limit is. I want to know where the potential can go. Whereas Lisa's extremely content going, no, I'm quite happy. Like I'm extremely content of where we are. And likewise, I'm not saying I'm not content. But when you taste that little bit of potential, you want more. And it's not out of selfishness or anything like that, but you go, I want to challenge me now to see where this can go. I want to challenge me now to see, well, where is that lid? And I think sometimes when you do have those people in your corner, as much as Lisa's like, you go for it, babe, like I 100% believe in you, it's gotten to a point now where just in, you know, like with other things where she's going, well, just slow down, it's okay. And I'm like, no, like, you know, like getting bitten by the travel bug at the moment, like, oh, babe, you know, the world's out there, let's go. She's like, well, slow down. And I'm like, no, like, if only you saw what I saw, like, you know, we can, you know. So it's makes a massive difference when they're all for you. But I think sometimes they can they keep you on track in a good way? Like, do you think when men go down the path of unlocking potential, that sometimes our women are our safety net in regards to they can sometimes be the wisdom behind that we can't see? Because sometimes we can chase dreams or we can do things that we go, oh, no, I'm going for it, without the thought behind it. Because men do a lot of things without thinking. I'm a spontaneous dude, man. Like when I got an idea or got a thought, I'm like, yep, gonna go do it, boom. And then sometimes Lisa kicks in and goes, have you thought about this? And I'm like, just shh, I don't need to hear it right now. I'm going for it.
Ignore the naysayers.
But quite often than not, I do stop and listen and go, no, you're right. You were right. I'll never tell her she's right, though. Screw that. You can't do that. You got to. No, but I think sometimes that as much as we appreciate the verbal affirmation to unlock that potential within us as men, sometimes it's also the wisdom that they can offer to slow us down.
Yeah, men are fearless in their pursuits, and we often need women. We often get a bit reckless when we're in that mode, trying to attack our dreams and aspirations. So I think definitely we need that little birdie on the shoulder, just saying, just calm down. We'll get there, but just
Nagging's a good thing.
hey,
Nagging's a good thing.
yeah. I know I'm like that. I'm definitely like, yeah, let's go. And well, yeah, okay. Well, look, I'm with you. Let's get there, but slow down. Because yeah, I mean, you don't want to get too reckless, and then it all comes crashing down.
I think there's a balance there, isn't there? Because, like, if looking at what with the small business I've started, there's times where I've spoken to Pip about stuff, and she's like, "Whoa, whoa, 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 whoa," and I'm like, "Yeah, okay," and do it anyway, and it's worked. And I think there's a balance there where you go, understand the limitations of who's giving you the advice as well. Look a bit deeper and go. There would be no point in coming and talking to me and Wayne about fitness and the gym workout. You know,
What'd you look at me for?
you know,
So much untapped
you want a good
potential here,
recipe,
Mikie.
then yeah.
Yeah.
Look at this untapped potential.
I think it is true though, is that you've got to have people that can give you different perspectives as well. But if you're just going 100% all the time, eventually you're going to run out of fuel. You know, so there is times where you need to take a step back and plan. It's like when we were talking about the cargo ships the other day, is that if you're taking on too much cargo and keep going, then eventually you're going to run out of fuel before you get to the destination. So, and I think like we're all blessed where we've got amazing partners and people that support you, but there is guys out there that don't have amazing partners, and they might be trying to hold those people back because they're worried about. We're watching right now because we're on like a health kick. Me and Anna are watching the bypass surgery thing. It's my 600-pound story or whatever it is, and there's partners on there where their partner starts losing weight and starts like getting positive and starts, starting to love life, and they're like sabotaging their partners because they're worried that they're going to lose them because they're going to get fit and healthy and not have the life that they actually have. So I think we're lucky in our basis where we've got people that do support us, but I think that you've got to think about the intention of what the person is telling you. So Lisa's telling you slow down because she loves you and she's worried that you're going to burn out, right? Which is a totally normal thing in business where people just go too hard, too long, burn out, and then they're not capable of achieving what they can, even the average of what they used to be able to do because they just don't have much left, But there is also people out there in the world, and I'm not saying it has to be your partners, but there's people out there who don't really want you to succeed. In Australia, we've got tall poppy syndrome where as soon as you start doing good, people want to cut you down, And
it's true.
And I think so you have a look at the intentions of the advice, and that's why it's good to have a great range of support from family, from friends, from mentors, from partners, because that will give you a good aspect. And normally one of the best things that you can do, especially in business, is find the person who's just one step above you and go, how did you, as you said, get the chalk, find the way of the chalk, go, this is where I'm at for the next step. How am I going to be able to get there? Because once you can do one thing, you can do the next thing. So
You're spot on. I think with staying on that for a little bit longer about the affirmations coming in from like your partners especially, I wonder where the frustration of untapped potential can be motivating. And what I mean by that is, it's one thing to see the. Okay, for example, let's just look at you've got a really good mate, and you're looking at his situation, and there's so much more potential in him, but he does nothing with it. Why do we let it frustrate us? Like, why do we go like your kids or whatever it is, but we see people and they seem to be okay with where they're at, whereas we look at it and go, mate, if you just tweaked that business just this little bit, you'd become international whatever. Mate, if you just did this one, and we see potential in people, but we let it frustrate us because we don't see them doing what we are offering. What we think we're offering is amazing advice, but we're basically saying to them, this is what we see. But I wonder why we let it frustrate us more and we don't understand why they don't take it on.
Well, it's a wasted resource. You look, if you see potential, you go, if I had that, I'd go and do this with it, and I could make this. Or, the other guy that would love an opportunity like that would give it 100%, and you do nothing with it.
Okay, so you just raised a thought then. So when you see untapped potential in men, so men that can absolutely, you looking at it going, mate, if only they knew, when you see it and they're not doing it, do you think that then opens a window for you to go, well, not so much jealousy, but you go, just that it's so untapped that I would do this so much different, and now I'm pissed off because you're not doing it. If I was in your position, I wonder if it brings about, like, not just frustration, but it pisses you off.
Well, how basic do you want to take it? The guy that could go and get a job that just doesn't, just sits there and does nothing with it, and everyone here has probably had you're thinking of the employee where you go, you could just fucking try, mate, and it would be easy, and no one else would have to carry you. Like, let's be honest. If you don't try and push in life, you're impacting everyone around you. It's not just you. As a man, if I decide I'm not going to go to work today and I'm going to just chill, and I'm just going to live my best life for today and be comfortable, who suffers? It's my wife, it's my kids. Eventually, it's the people around me that have to pick up the pieces. So there's potential for good and there's potential for bad. And it can go any which way depending on what you make of it.
Do you think that sometimes then we get caught up too much in looking at the lack of other people, do we get caught up too much in seeing other people not live their full potential compared to just looking within ourselves?
100%.
So when you look at what we would see in other people then, what we would judge as wasted potential, do you think it's wasted potential, or do you think it's just a slow, delayed progression into success? Like, who determines the pace on someone reaching their potential?
Just time, mate. It's your deathbed and what you look back at.
So sometimes then when it comes to judging ourselves as men, that if we're like, I'm not living up to my full potential, maybe we are, but it's just a slow progressional journey to that success.
You're living up your potential of today. Like, if, we've all got the potential to be billionaires one day. But today, my ceiling is here. I need to take steps to go further down that road and maximise the cards I have in my hand today. What's the resources I have today? What can I do with it? If that's just the ability to go out and go and do a hard day's work, today that's what I'll do, but I'll do something to set me up for tomorrow, to grow that potential long term, to give me more options.
All right, so for the man out there asking himself, am I living up to my full potential, or am I just staying busy? What's the difference between those? How does a man know the difference between that? Because I think busyness can sometimes be a what's the word, a hindrance. Like, you become so busy that you think you're living up to your potential just because your time schedule's full, where in reality you could just be going around in circles. So how do you determine the difference then as a bloke out there that's asking himself, am I living up to potential, or am I just extremely busy?
You ask someone you trust.
I think the thing is, you need to have a plan. If you're following a plan, then you're moving towards your potential. But if you're just doing things for the sake of doing them, then you're not actually getting the most out of it. It's not how much effort you put in, it's the results that you receive, which are actually going to make you get closer to your potential. So, and I think there is people out there who work their absolute ass off, but it's not in the right area. Do you know what I mean? Like, I was a victim of that, where I was like so focused on business that my health went to shit. You know what I mean? So focused on business that my relationship went to shit. So I think if you have a plan to actually, okay, this is the person I want to be and become, how do I get there? And then take steps on a daily basis. Like you said, we only can control what we do today. That's it. And some of those days you're going to actually do really good. And some of those days you're going to fall off the wagon. So, but it's not letting that tough day stop you moving towards implementing that game plan, you know?
Yep.
Thinking of that example at the start about that well of water, right? If deep down within every man is like this well of water, a well of water that's untapped and just stays there becomes stagnant. And when stagnant water isn't used, it becomes unusable, right? So it loses its potency, it loses its effectiveness the longer it stays stagnant and untapped. Do you think then that is the same for men the older they get? Or do you think age doesn't contribute to men tapping into their potential?
I don't think age does that much. I think if anything, it probably grows it because you've now got wisdom.
Yeah, I think wisdom is something that you can't write off.
Yeah, when you're 15, 20, how much hindsight do you have? Your school years, the playground. When you've done 20 years in the big world, in employment, in business, whatever it is, you can look back on that and go, well, based on what I learned from this situation, I can make this decision. So I think, yeah, that the older you are, probably the more you've got, to a point.
Well, I guess if you stay with the story about Ray Kroc at McDonald's, right? He was a milkshake blender salesman until he was 54. It wasn't until he saw the idea of Macca's that he then jumped on and then took it. So he basically stepped into it in his mid-50s, right? But you wouldn't say that the first 55 years of his life was wasted potential, because what he'd learnt in those 55 years enabled him to see the potential of what Macca's could become. So it's not so much, I believe, the age of men where you go, I'm losing my potential and becoming stagnant. I think it comes down to a point of men going, where I've been actually contributes to how much further I can go. Because you look at what you just said there, hindsight. What does a 15-year-old kid have? 15 years of high school, schooling experience. That's it. There's no life experience.
Yep.
It's living at home with his mum and dad and going to school. You take a bloke that's 54, 55 years old, a man that's 60, mid-40s, doesn't matter. You take a man at that age and you try and convince him to tap into potential. It's basically getting him to realise the hindsight he has now is actually wisdom. Because the experiences, the triumphs, the trials, the things that he's gone through in those 45, 55, 65 years, regardless, to get to that point, if anything, I was having this chat with Miguel the last couple of weeks. We were going to turn this into a topic for a podcast coming out called The Slingshot, on how sometimes it feels as if life just continues to draw you back further when you're wanting to go further. But it seems as if every time you wake up in the morning, something else happens that holds you back or it pulls you back, and it feels as if you know where you want to go, but you're getting pulled so much further back. But in reality, if you were in a slingshot, the further back you're pulled, the further forward you're going to go. So sometimes I think it's a matter of understanding that, hey, yeah, it might look like, if anything, the slingshot is full potential. It may look like that at 45, 55, whatever age you are, that, oh no, I've written myself off now, there's nothing left in me, there's no point in starting now, water's gone stagnant. Where in reality, if you just switch up and go, hang on a minute, think of your life being in a slingshot. Yeah, you might be 55, but nobody else has 55 years of experience like what you've had. You've gone through the trials, you've learnt this, you've learnt that. Now if you put it into practice, away you go. Ray Kroc, perfect example.
Well, I think that is a really good way to look at it. And I think, though, that if you asked Ray Kroc when he was 50, have you reached your potential? He'd be like, nowhere near it. Yeah. And that's what Mike said before. You can have good potential and bad potential. It's about, whether they're actually keep working at it. Because you think about it, unless he actually went, no, I'm going to have one last crack, McDonald's wouldn't be here today. So, and I think that you know, that book Grit, that's why it's so important. It's having that ability when things are working against you and you're not where you want to be, you just keep going because you don't know when the wind's going to change. You know what I mean? When you're sailing and you're going against the wind, you've got to get somewhere. You got to tack. It's working twice as hard to try to get there.
Yeah.
Yeah, but you never know when that wind's going to change and go behind you. And you can put the spinnaker up and have the ability to go much faster than you ever thought that you could. So, and I think that, you know, there's an old saying that people used to talk about it was like 1 meter from gold, you know, where there was a miner who built this massive mine and he found this gold when he first started and he was like, this is great, all the rest of it. And then all of a sudden that vein just stopped and he just kept digging and kept digging and kept digging and kept digging. And then eventually he stopped, you know. But what happened is that the plates moved and that's why the vein. And if he just actually dug 1 meter in the other direction, he was going to hit an even bigger deposit, you know. So I think it's really important for men to go, yeah, I might not be where I want to be right now, just like Ray Kroc when he was 50, but I can't. If I keep going, maybe the circumstances will change. Because if you are that guy in the 90s, most of the time, it's not going to be because I didn't reach my potential. They're going to use excuses on why it didn't happen. But at some point there, they probably gave up on this is where I want to be, or I'm going to keep trying, sort of thing. So I think having that grit, that mentality to just keep pushing, just one more day, just one more year, one more, you know what I mean? Just trying, not giving up is so important to have for you to actually get there. Because you are developing skills, you're developing the mindset, you know, you're developing that longevity. So
like he backed with the McDonald's story and the Ray Kroc, like he the first thing that he potentially saw in that opportunity was obviously the fast food concept, right? Let's make heaps of burgers and make money from making the burgers. But then it turned into something so much bigger than that when he started using that concept and putting it in a real estate format. That's right. So, you know, he chose to open that door of opportunity at the start just off the basis of let's make some money making burgers. But then 10 other doors opened up once he'd walked through that initial door, and all this extra potential was behind that first door. And that was what really made McDonald's what they are today. That's how they made their money, from real estate, not selling burgers.
You're bang on there, mate. I think you've hit the nail on the head when it comes to potential, because that is a perfect example of it. It wasn't the burgers that made Ray Kroc a billionaire. It was getting into the burgers to begin with that unlocked so many more doors other than that.
So it's the first door. It's the critical one, right? Because there's 10 other doors behind it.
Which goes back to what you said at the start. If you say yes to the first thing, it might just come down to you saying yes. And it might not even be the first door you walk through. Saying yes to the first door might just lead to another corridor with 10 doors, but those 10 doors then unlock it. Yeah, you're bang on.
There you go. Maybe I am good at this stuff. Maybe I'm unlocking my potential.
Chris is unlocking his potential as we speak. Do you think I want to go back to being content again, right? Do you think there's a battle? Do you think there's a balance between being content but also driven by ambition? Is there a balance? Can you find a balance? Should you have a balance? Ambition, contentment when it comes to unlocking your potential.
Balance in life in general, and in business, in relationships, there's always got to be a balance. So yeah, mate, balance is critical, because if you go too far to one side, you tip over. So stick to the middle.
All right. So then, when it comes to balance, do you think it needs to be even? Because when we think of balance, we think of weight, right? Like if you look at a set of scales, you could have, it's the old thing, you know, what weighs more, a ton of feathers or a ton of elephants? Well, a ton's a ton, so regardless, right? So when you look at weight being balanced, it's about even distribution of the weight. But when you look at things like this, let's just say like ambition and contentment, Does it need to be even for it need to be balanced? What does a balance look like when it comes to two things like this? You've got a man chasing his potential or trying to unlock it. So he's driven by ambition, but also at some point needs to either find contentment or remain content as he's doing it. What do you think the balance is between those?
Well, let's just say the man who's continually chasing improvement for his whole life and sold out to just let's go, forget enjoying any of it, I'm just going to go. You get to your deathbed and you've got $100 million in the bank and you haven't spent one day of your life happy. You've just been driving and flogging yourself. What was the point? What have you achieved? Is potential purely money? Are we here just to create wealth?
No, but by no means.
So for the guy who's just out there flogging, trying to build something big every day and not spending the day with his kids, and you get to your retirement and you get to that nice big house on the beach, but your kids won't sit next to you. What have you? I think it should be even. I think for every bit of energy you put into creating wealth and building that bigger future, you need to put the same into your kids and to your wife, and otherwise you won't have them. It's going to be gone, and then she'll just take half of it anyway.
80%.
Yeah, that's right. Even
We're in
more,
Australia, mate. It's so far the other way.
a whole lot. Yeah, and you end up back at the start because you haven't looked after what you had.
Yeah.
Because as much potential we have to grow our business and to make money, we have potential to grow our marriage, grow our children. So there's the balance isn't even like this. There's 12 weights, 50 weights, 100 weights, all balancing out this thing. And if you're going to chuck it all over here, it's all gone, man.
Yeah. I think that brings up a good point, as you were speaking before, saying, what about the guy who's just constantly working? You know what I mean? If he's just go, go, go. I think that's why it's important to sit down and actually work out who you want to become and have that plan. Because if you don't have that plan, then you can't, because some people don't care about having a family, but they might care about, solving a disease or curing a disease or something along those lines. So, you're exactly right. It's not just money that's important. Giving back is normally the thing that's most fulfilling for people.
Yep.
But if you don't have health as well, then you're not going to be around to see the fruits of your labor. So yes, a balance is important, but actually working out who you want to become is probably one of the most important things to do, because then you know your potential. You've actually decided this is what I think my potential is. You've made the decision on it rather than sort of like just fluffing around with it. But on the topic of balance, though, that's why I think that foundations are so important. Like you building a strong foundation of who you are. Like if you're balancing on a triangle, well, then the tip is sitting there and it's really hard to balance. But if you're balancing on a block, and it's a square, well, then the balance is easy. It sort of takes care of itself a lot more, and if that becomes a rectangle, so the bigger the foundations and the more stronger the foundations you can build yourself as a man, then the more you can hold and the more that you can balance.
Yeah, spot on.
Yeah.
Excuse me. No, you're spot on, mate. So then you look at a man out there then trying to unlock potential, chase that potential, all that ambition. You look at all that. You think of a man on that journey. Is it better for him to aim high and fail along the way, or aim low and collect those small successes?
I think it's like Jamie said before, as long as he's got a plan to reach a certain point, take the small steps along the way so that they're achievable and it feels like you're achieving something, but think of it as the bigger picture and get to that end result.
Hey, your arm's getting dangerous to Elon Musk.
Well, I'm trying to stay in my zone here, so we have to get a bit. I got in trouble last time.
Yeah. I think the decision, just make the decision on who you want to be. That's such an important thing.
I think you've got to a little bit higher, though, don't you? Like, if you don't have a dream, you're going to end up with nothing, really. But yeah, there's the balance. It's like I say, it's just enjoying when you've won. Like, you know, you just moved into your new house, mate. Did you not take a few moments and go, hey, I saw the post on Facebook where you're just enjoying, you know, being in your new house, putting music on.
Yeah.
You didn't go, right, quick, let's go off to the next one. I'm going to leave it. But you took a day, right?
Yeah,
like
no, I do. I appreciate it every day. Like, I wake up, you know, and I appreciate, you know, how lucky I am.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But you didn't build the house, lock it up, walk away and go right on to the next one.
But I might. Yeah.
You're going to live in it for 2
But
months
it's-
first.
He's got 11 months left.
I see it
Capital
as
gains tax, mate.
it's another level of achieved, and then the next thing, like,
Yeah.
it's like I said before, it's not my end result.
Yep.
It's one of the steps along the way.
Someone really successful that I know who taught me a lot. She explained that it's about there's always going to be progress, and she used the example of the decimal point changing. So when you're a kid, you know, cents, like 10 cents, 20 cents, 50 cents, that was a big thing because you could go and buy lollies. Does that make sense? Yep. And then when you're sort of like a little bit older, then $5 or $10 or $20 or let's say even $50 was amazing because like I give Kobe $50 to go buy dinner or buy, you know, I'll go have fun with your friends down at the plaza. He thinks that's massive. Do you know what I mean? But $50 for us, that's barely even a meal, isn't it? You know?
That's what plumbers blow their nose with, isn't it?
and then it goes to the hundreds, you know, as we get older again. And I think in business, like that just happens. The decimal point just changes. So where you think $1,000 is a lot, and then you start to think 10 grand is a lot, and then you start to think 100 grand is a lot, and then you start to think that $1 million is a lot, and then you start to think that $10 million is a lot. So that decimal point just over time always changes. So it is whether it's a small goal or whether it's a big goal. The point is that as long as you're ready for that next step and you don't give up, you know, then at least you're working towards your potential. I think that's having that mindset of just like, okay, where I'm at right now, fantastic, that's great, but the decimal point's going to move. Yeah.
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
Well, as I want to wrap it up there, I've written down some stuff to do. I've got so much out of this for myself, but I want to just go through some dot points that I've taken down for those guys that they're listening. But in order to unlock this potential we have as men, I've written down, follow where other men have been. In that story I showed you about when my son was climbing that rock wall, if you can follow the footsteps where other men have been, you're on your way. What Chrisso said, say yes to things. I think the moment you start saying yes to one door, you'll see there's 10 more doors behind it, and the potential in that is huge. We all agreed on the fact that if you receive verbal affirmation and take action on it, that there's nothing that can stop a man that receives a verbal affirmation and believes it. We're saying with Mikie that your age is wisdom. It's not a hindrance. It's age brings wisdom, and that just more than anything can unlock that potential in you. Learn to balance your ambition with being content. And the way you can do that, what Jamie was saying, is if you've got a strong foundation, you can balance anything on a strong foundation. So in chasing those dreams and unlocking the potential we have as men and balancing that ambition with being content, you do that by having a strong foundation. Lads, really appreciate you joining me again this week. That was got so much out of it. So once again, thank you. Really, really good.
And Wayno, I think there's plenty of unlocked potential for fitness.
Yeah, we'll cut it right there.
With
I
you.
was going to cut it. Well, look, gentlemen, I appreciate you joining us this week here at the Average Joe's Men's Collective podcast. Get along to your AJ's meetup, hit up the website, find out where all our events and all our meetups are. Grab some merch and get out there and be good men. All right, lads. Appreciate it once again.
Thanks, boys.
See you, gents.
Adios.